13 days until NHL free agency. Today, we're talking Nikolaj Ehlers coming up on Locked On Sabres.
You're Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody, and welcome into day one of the NHL offseason. At least for everybody else. We've been doing this for a while, since April 17th. So this is day number 62 of our offseason here on the Locked On Sabres podcast and here in Buffalo. But the Stanley Cup final is over. It is the Florida Panthers for the second year in a row. They win the cup. And we've talked a lot about them. Very impressed by that overall team. That is an all-time team that they have there in Florida. There is fallout in Edmonton. And, hey, McDavid going into the final year of a contract. Maybe that's something to talk about with the Oilers. So, a lot of juicy stuff coming out of the Stanley Cup final. I've got something to say on all of it a little bit later on today's show, so be sure to stay tuned for that a little bit later on. But welcome into the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen every day, free and available wherever you get your podcast. You can check us out on our YouTube channel where you can watch the show. Be sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to do that there. And you could also become a part of our Locked On Sabres text club. Do that by heading over to joinsubtext.com/LockedOn Sabres. Today's episode of the show is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. With there being under 2 weeks until NHL free agency, today we are going to dive back in and talk about another free agent option. Talked about JJ Peterka on Monday and all the trade rumors surrounding him. If you would like to check that out, be sure to hit that up in our feed, as that's really the number one internal question about the Sabres right now. A lot of RFA contracts, Peterka being one of them. But before that, we'll have the draft. We'll talk about that next week. And today, more about free agency. We already talked about Mitch Marner. We have talked about Sam Bennett and Aaron Ekblad. Those two having their seasons come to an end. It continues to sound like Bennett is going to stay in Florida and that Ekblad is more likely to get out of Florida. Let's move on today back to the forward position. The Sabres want to do something big, and I do believe that this player would land under the category of something big. I believe it would be the biggest name that the Buffalo Sabres would land in free agency since Taylor Hall 5 years ago, maybe even Kyle Okposo before that. It's on that level, maybe just a dip below in terms of the fame and the star power of the player. I would look at this player, though, as the likely answer to the best free agent signing the Sabres would have in a decade or more. Who even is the answer to that question? I got to go back to Teppo Numminen to find a free agent signing that everybody truly liked the results of. How about Nikolaj Ehlers, a player that we've talked about here in Buffalo? I mean, is it 10 years? It's been a long time. Maybe it's not 10 years because he enters the league in 2015-16. So that would be right when he got into Winnipeg. But Nikolaj Ehlers, who was always the trade target, always the trade rumor. Winnipeg, always having him on the market was the rumor, but never ended up dealing him. He plays a 10-year career with the Jets. I don't think I could have ever guessed that he would make it through 10 years with Winnipeg with all the trade stuff surrounding him from a couple of years ago. Has gone on to have a nice career with the Jets and is going to command a lot in free agency. Today, his fit, how good he is, what type of player, what the Sabres would have to offer, and whether he's a realistic idea for them. He is not the number one forward free agent. That would be Mitch Marner. This would be your poor man's Mitch Marner for any team in free agency looking to make a big swing. And I think it's a player that would help the Buffalo Sabres a lot. So let's tackle a couple of the key questions about Ehlers, and let's really start with what you're getting, what anybody would be getting from this player. He is 29 years old. He is from Denmark. He was a first-round pick, a top 10 pick of the Winnipeg Jets back in 2014, the Sam Reinhart draft. the draft class is getting a lot of pub in the last couple of days because of Ekblad and Bennett and Draisaitl. Well, Ehlers ends up going 9th overall in that draft class. A good pick by the Jets. He has gone on to play 10 years in Winnipeg, 674 games, 225 goals, 295 assists for 520 points in those 674 games. His career high in points goes back to his second season with the Jets, 64 points. He's had 4 seasons of 60 points or more, between 60 and 64. He has had a lot of 20-goal seasons. He had 5 in a row from 2016 to 2020, 2021 even. And then you had a shortened year because of COVID, and for him, more so actually because of injury. I guess that would be injury for him. And in the last 2 years, back into the 20-goal mark. He's always consistent with his offensive production year to year to year. By season, starting with that second year, we'd have to go to his rookie year. Points, 64, 60, 37. That was a tough one. 58, 46, and 47 games. That's the COVID year. 55 in 62 games. 38 in 45 games. 61, and then 63. I mean, he's always giving you the same consistent level of production. He has never made an all-star team. He has never had a vote for an award other than for the Lady Bing in 2022. He's just kind of existed in Winnipeg, being a really good player for a decade and not really being somebody that anybody thinks about other than when he was a trade idea. So what you're getting, a team that's getting Nikolaj Ehlers, is a player that's going to put the puck in the back of the net, and more specifically, he's going to do it at even strength. He has not been one of the more dominant power play players throughout his career. Since 2015-16, when he entered the NHL, Nikolaj Ehlers. This will really put into perspective his ranking about where he ranks in total goals and then where he ranks in even strength goals. Nikolaj Ehlers in that time is 47th in the NHL in total goals. 47th. Pretty good, right? He's ahead of Tomas Hertl and Patrick Laine and Anze Kopitar, and just behind Ricard Raquel, Tyler Seguin, Tarasenko, Eichel, Matthew Tkachuk, like pretty good company. So 47th in total goals, but he is 24th in even strength goals with 184. A little bit better company. One behind Willie Nylander. And they've played almost the same amount of games, just behind Jonathan Marchessault and Braden Point and Sebastian Aho. A little bit of a higher caliber of player when you just can't specify it to even strength. So Sabres have a lot of that, right? And maybe you're already going, well, I really would like a guy that helps me on the power play. That's maybe not going to be specifically what you're getting. He might play on the power play for you and give you some production. His career high in power play goals in a season, though, is 7. And that's not necessarily what the Sabres need on that unit. But of course, anybody could use more goal scoring. Anybody could use more talent. And anybody could use a veteran that is as consistent and reliable as Nikolaj Ehlers is. You might not get him on the power play, but you really know what you're going to get from him at even strength. This is a average size player, 6 foot, 172 pounds. He is not going to be very physical for you. He is not going to be the best defensive player in the world, but he is fine in that department. He is not going to penalty kill. He's not going to get any votes for the Selke, but he doesn't get run over in his own end compared to a guy I'm going to compare him to in a minute, with like JJ Peterka, for instance. He's better than that. He's a very fast skater. Looking through some of his NHL Edge stats from this past season, he reached a top skating speed on the year of 22.98 miles per hour. It's in the 95th percentile among NHL forwards. Speed bursts over 20 miles per hour. He was in the 80th percentile. And then also, by the way, his shooting speed, 88 miles per hour was his top shot. That's in the 88th percentile as well. 22 mile per hour speed burst, by the way, 95th percentile. He had 4 speed bursts of 22 miles per hour or more. The league average by forwards was 0.9. He had quadruple what the average forward does at hitting that mile per hour. So you're getting a fast player. You're getting a consistent player. You're getting an even strength goal scorer. fine playmaker, doesn't put up gaudy numbers of assists. I mean, his goals to assist ratio is a little bit more weighted towards the goals. It's pretty close to the same, which usually you get more of a shooter on that front. Plays on the left wing. So all of this, to me, what you're looking at is a player that is a top line left winger on a good team, on a great team, on an elite team. You know, if he was on Florida, he might be on the second line, right? There will be a lot of teams in the league where he's a second line stud left winger, but I think you could do a lot worse for a first line left winger than Nikolaj Ehlers of the Winnipeg Jets. And he's kind of done that in Winnipeg. I mean, he's not never. He's 18 minutes one season. He did average in ice time. But like each of the last 3 seasons, he didn't even crack 16 minutes per night. And some of that is the lack of special teams, right? He doesn't penalty kill. He's not a very good power play player. 2 years ago, man, look at some of his stats. 23-24. Nikolaj Ehlers had 25 goals and 36 assists for 61 points. He had 0 goals and 7 assists on the power play. Nothing at all on that unit. So that's the story. I think he's a very nice player. Where would he fit in the Buffalo Sabres lineup? Why I actually think he's a good JJ Peterka replacement if they are to make a trade, sending him away, and why I think they should be, stop short of saying all in, but they should be aggressive in going after Ehlers, who I think, is the poor man's Mitch Marner of this offseason in free agency. That's coming up here in the Locked On Sabres podcast. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NBA Finals have been awesome. The Indiana OKC series has been great. The blowout that everybody thought we might be getting ain't happening. Every night's been delivering highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, dunks, three-pointers, game-winning shots, breakout players. There's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props and performance trends and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. I'm looking at Jalen Williams for tomorrow night's game. He has been awesome in this series. And when all this attention is getting paid to SGA, I like Jalen Williams. I have him going over on the point total for tomorrow night's game, Thursday night's game. I think he's been awesome, and I would expect him to continue his hot trend. And right now, if you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com, place your first $5 bet, and if it wins, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Sneaky Joe DiBiase back here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, free agent options. And today we're talking Nikolaj Ehlers. I expect the Sabres to be after some free agents. I think Kevin Adams wants to do something big. And sure, I think trade usually is more of that. But I think you might see them dip their toe into the expensive free agent market more so than they have really at any point during Kevin Adams' tenure. I mean, the most they've really done in free agency are Connor Clifton, who signed a 3-year deal for $3.3 million per year. By NHL standards, that's not really much of a contract. Ended up stinking as a contract anyway. And then Jason Zucker last year, right? Jason Zucker, a 1-year, $5 million deal, a player that they thought had a little bit left in the tank, and he had more than that left in the tank, and they ended up re-signing him. And that one ended up working out. That one's been great. So this year, I would bet right now that if the total money given out, and I think I have this right, that the total money given out in a free agent contract, the high right now for the Buffalo Sabres under Kevin Adams is Connor Clifton, right? Even remember, Taylor Hall goes back to Kevin Adams. Isn't that amazing? Taylor Hall was a Kevin Adams signing, even though it was really a Ralph Kruger signing. $9 million for Connor Clifton, 9.9 million even, right? That is the most they've given out. I'd expect they are going to give out the biggest free agent contract this summer that they've given out under Kevin Adams. Now, that's a very low bar, and it shouldn't be that hard to clear that bar, but I think they'll do it, and I think they'll do it by a lot. Ehlers, 2 years into his contract, you could see him topping that number. So Let's continue on Nikolaj Ehlers. By the way, wears number 27, which off the top of my head, it's been a minute since I've been seeing the Sabres on the ice. I do believe that is available, or am I missing somebody? Devin Levi. It is not available. Kind of. Not really. No, Levi's got 27. So maybe 72 is unavailable. He can't do that. Maybe try to find something else. Ehlers, we'll get to the contract piece of it, because I do think that's interesting for what his market is and what the Sabres be willing to pay. The fit. I like the idea, if the Sabres are going to move JJ Peterka, really even if they're not going to move JJ Peterka, but if the Sabres get to a place where they feel, all right, he doesn't want to be here, the contract demand is crazy high, and we got a really good offer from blank. I saw the guys over Expected Buffalo debating a deal with the Rangers that involves Keandre Miller going back to the Sabres for Peterka and other pieces. Chad did not like that idea, by the way, which I guess I'm on the fence for it. I like to, cede to their opinion on some of these defensive defensemen like Miller. So I trust them on that. Miller, though, for Peterka, let's say that was the deal. You'd want to replace JJ Peterka's goal scoring production. You'd want to do that. You'd want to replace his spot on the left wing, and you'd want to replace a player that was one of your best even strength scorers over the last 2 years, because Peterka has not been much of a power play guy. Ehlers would do that, and he's older and he's more consistent. So, the Peterka's a little kind of stacked some of these point totals and goal totals at the ends of seasons when they're out of it. And maybe you would be more trustworthy of Ehlers to produce throughout a whole year. But either way, he would be your Peterka replacement. But again, I don't think he has to just be that. I don't think you only have to go after Nikolaj Ehlers if you're going to trade Peterka and not get a really good forward back like a Jason Robertson. I think you should be able to add to this group with Peterka in the mix. And if you look at the way that the Sabres lineup is presently constructed with everybody on the team, let's look at their left side at the moment. JJ Peterka, Jason Zucker, Zach Benson, and Jordan Greenway. 4 guys on the left side that all you would expect to be in the lineup. And, maybe somebody is able to go to the other side of the wing. Benson has done it a little bit. Zucker's done it a little bit throughout his career. Greenway too. How many of those guys should be definitive top 6 players? Because Zucker can play in the top 6. Do I want him to play in the top 6? Benson can play in the top 6, and I'm hopeful he grabs that and takes hold of it. But do I want to go all in on Zach Benson being ready for top 6 minutes next year? Or do I want to continue to allow him to grow into that and not rely on him yet for it and continue to play him on the third line? I think that is probably the better idea at this point. So I do think there is a need for a second line left winger, even if Peterka is at the top of that lineup. And if they trade Peterka again, that becomes a barren position that they will absolutely need to address. And I think Ehlers would do that on as good a level in this free agent period as the Sabres are going to find. There are other good forwards available. We'll talk about Brock Besser on a future show, although he plays on the other side. And we talked about, Marner, and there's Marchand. There are some good forwards available. But I think Ehlers is the one that most easily fits. He's the square peg in the square hole for the Sabres on the left side. So I do think he fits the lineup. I think you'd probably play him on the power play, but again, that's not really why you're getting him. You're getting him because you want to win right now. And he's a good player, and you just want to add talent. Now, the Sabres would have to pay him, and they'd have to pay him a big contract because he's going to have a nice market. He is going to be the guy that is the consolation prize for whoever doesn't get Marner, whoever doesn't get, I think Besser probably outranks him a little bit. I think Bennett outranks him, just coming off a Conn Smythe win, of course. But he's going to have a big market. And there was a report from James Myrtle earlier in the week that his market is looking at over $9 million per year. His last contract, $6 million per year. Ehlers, by the way, of these free agent forwards that we've been looking at, I saw Greg Wyshynski point this out, that He has 3.5 points per 60 minutes, and that is the best of any of these free agents. Any of these free agents that are about to hit the market, 3.5 points per 60 minutes of ice time is the best. So efficient player. 9 million plus for Ehlers at 29 years old. And I would not be afraid of that if I'm the Buffalo Sabres, knowing, yeah, the final 2-3 years, at least, of that contract. Let's say it's a 7-year deal. 6-year deal. Some of these players are a little bit more willing to go a little shorter. 6-year deal at $9.5 million for a player whose career high is 64 points. That's going to sound like a lot, but remember the cap is going up, and $9.5 million is closer to what $8.5 million was before. You've got to be willing to overpay and to be aggressive on some of these moves. And more so, you have to be willing to say, I'm good with eating 2-3 years in the future, 5 years from now, where he's not worth the contract anymore, to get the benefit of the years right now, the 3-4 years on the short term, where I would expect and project that the player is going to help me and maybe even help me a lot. That's the trade-off. The trade-off is I'm going to trade 2 years of bad contract at the end for 4 good years of contract at the beginning. And I think that is more how you've got to approach these free agent deals. And for Ehlers, I don't see any signs of slowing down. He's a player that I would be pretty trustworthy of maybe even going through a whole 6-year contract and still being a productive player, because he could shoot the puck well, he could skate really well, and that speed could allow him to play into his mid-30s at a productive level. Thinking about Chris Kreider a little bit for this. Kreider just finally fell off as a good player. Gets traded to Anaheim. I can't believe they did that deal. But why is part of the reason Chris Kreider was able to be such a good player into age like 33, 34, it's because he's super fast. And I think that will always help a player age. And Ehlers has that skating ability that I'd expect he'll age well. And the shot is there too. So I think you can trust him to pay a contract of that magnitude. It's not, nothing. It's a big price to eat. And if you're the Buffalo Sabres and the market is $9 to $9.5 million, maybe you have to be the team that is willing to be criticized and goes for the sticker shock price of $10 million. Because, hey, I'm Buffalo and I got to pay the premium to get him to come here. So, hey, 10's the new 9. And if everybody else offering 9.5 and I'm willing to offer him an extra $500,000, maybe I can get my foot in the door, given that there will be a really good market for him. So, is this a good idea for the Buffalo Sabres to offer Nikolaj Ehlers $9.5 to $10 million a year over the course of 6-7 years? I believe it is. I like this idea more than any of the previous free agent ideas that we've talked about, except for Mitch Marner, because I think that would just be ultra exciting and he's an elite player. I like it more than the Bennett idea. I think the price comparison is probably pretty close. And I know Bennett just won the Conn Smythe, and Bennett is a gritty player, and he's fast too, and he scores goals. And he's got that winning DNA, the winning culture that's going to come with playing in Florida. But who would I trust more to be productive through the length of their contract? And who would I trust to be productive on the Buffalo Sabres the day they showed up? I think you're getting more consistency. You have more talent, and you have a player that I would trust to be good longer in Nikolaj Ehlers than you would in Sam Bennett. So if they're willing to throw $9.5, $10 million at a non-Mitch Marner forward free agent, Ehlers over Bennett, in my opinion. I would call Ehlers before I would call Sam Bennett. Let me know what you think about Ehlers. If you would like to hear more about other free agents, we're going to get to Brock Besser on our next show as a free agent idea, so stay tuned for that. When we come back, though, let's move on to last night's game, the end of the series, and Connor McDavid. I had a fun question for everybody on WGR this morning that I'll read some text answers to, and kind of just where these two teams are now. The Panthers on this almost dynasty, maybe it is a dynasty for you, and then the Oilers, who are maybe at a crossroads or trying to figure out what they should do going forward. That's coming up on Locked On Sabres. Today's episode of the Locked On Sabres podcast is presented by Wonderful Pistachios. If you're looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious, crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. One of the highest protein nuts. Wonderful Pistachios, each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein that gives you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I just throw a big bag in my golf bag. It's my go-to snack out on the golf course. Nice, healthy snack. Don't go for chips or anything if you're looking for something salty. I love the no-shells varieties. Grab a handful and that's it. But if you like that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite as well. Whether you're running between meetings or running some errands, Wonderful Pistachios are the snack that works as hard as you do. So get snacking, get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com today to learn more. Wrapping things up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast, the Panthers win the Cup back-to-back years. They have already dented the bottom of the Cup and cracked the top of the Cup. So is there an amount of damage you could do to the Stanley Cup that would cause you to lose access to it, where they would take it from you, where Phil Pritchard that comes in, you've lost, you're in timeout, basically, with the Cup, because the Panthers maybe already should be in it. Maybe you saw the video of Sam Reinhart at Elbow Room in Fort Lauderdale, who, listen, he's clearly hammered, right, as he should be, the night after he scores 4 goals to win the Stanley Cup for the Panthers. He is up on that balcony, and someone threw him a Reinhart Sabre jersey to autograph, and he did, but then he kind of had this face and attitude of like, I can't believe you just threw me a Sabre jersey, and he whipped it back, but he did sign it, so, I don't think there's any ill will over that. I don't really care about it. I don't think Sabre fans are going to take it that seriously either, but the Panthers win, and I think their status as an all-time team should be recognized. I don't know that I would call them a dynasty yet. I think you got to win 3 to be a definitive dynasty. If they were to go to the finals again next year, and they've gone 4 years in a row, they've won 2 of them, like, all right. Like, were the Miami Heat a dynasty in the NBA? Were the Lightning a dynasty in the NHL? Like, I think you're on the verge of it, but I think 3 is really the number that you want to see over the course of at least 4 or 5 years. So they're an all-time team. One of the best built team I've ever seen. They had everything, absolutely everything, whether they're a dynasty or not. That's the most well-built team that I have ever seen. I am definitely interested in their story and how they did it. And Bill Zito, who, yes, interviewed with the Buffalo Sabres once upon a time. Edmonton's place in all this, though, is even more interesting to me because look at that Stuart Skinner give up last night. The pop it right out in front for Barkov, and he puts it to Reinhart for his second goal of the game. One of the worst moments a goalie's had all season. That was something that they needed to do at the deadline. Everybody knew it. Everybody said it. You got to get a goalie to go with Stuart Skinner because Cal Pickard is not a good enough plan B when Skinner probably fails in the playoffs. And they didn't do it, and it cost them. McDavid was pretty frank, right? He was cursing, and he said, like, we keep trying to do the same effing thing every year after year. So he's not happy. He does not seem happy at all. He is an intense dude, but he looks upset. He had just lost the game, so he should. But he also didn't have his best series. I think the Panthers did that to him, though, more than like he choked or anything. I think Barkov is the best defensive center in the sport. And the ability to match up Barkov with McDavid, it's going to make it a lot tougher on him. And then when you're able to get McDavid away from Barkov, they have a baby Barkov and Anton Lundell that's sitting there in the third line with Brad Marchand and Litzrainen. So you can't really hide, get McDavid on a positive matchup because everything that the Panthers have throughout their depth chart in their lineup is presented to kind of stop McDavid. So they did that. He's got 1 year left on his contract. And I really do wonder what his opinion is of where he is and what his future holds. And it's tough to argue you could find a better spot to win a Stanley Cup than the team that's gotten you within a game and then of 2 games of winning the cup in back-to-back years. But I don't think it's also crazy for him to think, this team, 10 years, has had a lot of trouble surrounding me with depth, surrounding me with good defensemen, surrounding me especially with good goaltending. It might feel like to him it's just me and Leon that are carrying the show, and everything else around us is just meh, pretty good. I'm recognizing, by the way, they were missing a top line left winger in Zach Hyman. But you're looking at it and thinking, like, maybe I'm the reason that we've been going this far more than I should be. I did have the thought, could he Kevin Durant this thing? And what I mean by that is, instead of when Durant went to the Golden State Warriors after he couldn't beat the Golden State Warriors, that would be the equivalent of McDavid going to Florida, right? Him going to the Panthers and creating a super team, the likes of the NHL's maybe never seen before. He's not going to do that, I don't think. He's not going to come to Buffalo also. The question, like LA, maybe he could follow in Gretzky's path. I don't know. He's eligible to sign on July 1st. I'm very interested to see whether or not he actually does sign. I think if you get to, the fall, you get to September and October and the season's approaching and you don't have a contract, I would never trade him if I were Edmonton in a million years. Like, even if I knew he was leaving, I don't think I would do it. I don't think there's anything I would ever do to trade him. Like, you get a player like that, you hold on to him until the last hour that you have his rights to try to get him to sign. And if he walks for nothing, then he walks for nothing. Whatever. There's nothing that could make up for him. So I would never deal him. That being said, fun question I asked this morning. If the Oilers did want to move him, and he told Edmonton and he told any team that's going to acquire me, I'm hitting free agency no matter what. So if you trade for me, we can Kawhi Leonard this thing, and I'll play 1 year for you, and we'll try to win the Stanley Cup. But it's only going to be the 1 year, and that's it. And then I'm gone. If you knew that ahead of time and you were the Buffalo Sabres, what would you be willing to give up? You are going to get 1 year of McDavid, but only 1 year of McDavid. It's only 1 year. What would you be willing to give up? I asked Jeremy White this question this morning, and I asked him Tage Thompson. He said yes. He thought about it later and said maybe not. But I did ask that to our texters, and a couple of them were like, I think I'd give up Tage Thompson to get 1 year of Connor McDavid. That would hurt. And you'd kind of have to win the cup to really get the fruits of that. But even maybe not. Maybe if they just made the playoffs and won a couple of rounds, that 1 year of fun would really be worth it. And the year of getting to see him in a Buffalo uniform would be worth it. Giving up a top level player that's going to be here for 5-6 more years. Maybe. He could ask for a trade also. Peterka and Byram, one texter asked, like, would you trade Peterka and Byram? Like, that would be easy for me. Yes, I would trade both of them for 1 year of Connor McDavid. Would you trade 5 first-round picks for 1 year of Connor McDavid? One texter asked. And I think I would do that. Like, is it impossible to think the Sabres could win the cup with 1 year of McDavid? They wouldn't be favored. And in this division especially, like, I wouldn't pick them to beat Florida in a playoff series, but could they? They could, right? Like McDavid and Dahlin and, maybe you get a hot goalie, it's possible. Again, I wouldn't pick it, but it would definitely be the most fun season we've had in 20 years. And would you go all in for that? I would say, sure. Not going to happen. No team's going to do that. Edmonton's not going to trade him, even if he's hesitant to sign an extension. That would be my expectation. But definitely something to track. And for Edmonton, listen, in reality, what Edmonton should be doing right now is 1, yelling at their GM, and 2, doing everything in their power to get a goaltender this offseason. And Jake Allen's not going to cut it. He's the top free agent. Like, they got to go get a star. They got to go get a star goalie. Call Winnipeg and see if Connor Hellebuck is available for anything. Just find a team that's going to solidify that goaltending, because it got them beat this series. Florida was still the better team, but it looked, the Panthers led for all but 30 minutes. NHL record. It was a 6-game series, but they dominated that series. And I think the biggest reason that it wasn't closer and why it didn't go to 7 and why game 6 was such a blowout, like, I think the goalie was really the biggest difference between the two teams. Bobrovsky was stable, and Stuart Skinner was anything but. All right, that's going to do it for us. We'll talk Brock Besser on our next show. Next week, we'll talk NHL draft. We're just over a week away. So lots of free agent coverage, lots of draft coverage, and we'll keep monitoring Peterka watch. And if we get any more updates on that in the next couple of days. You want more on the final and the Panthers winning the Stanley Cup? Be sure to check out Locked On NHL Game Night. Wherever you listen to your podcast, they've got you covered leading into the offseason here on the Locked On NHL feed on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll talk to you on Friday here on Locked On Sabres, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.